This is number 8, part F of on page 17, and I just finished part E in there for you. But in part F it says write a C++ statement that outputs the value of num1 and num2, indicating that num1 which is num1 and which is num2. For example, if num1 is 8 and num2 is 5, then output it with this particular string that says the value of num1 equals is 8 and the value of num2 is equal to 5. So you got to output to the user and let the user know what you have on here. So this is part F that I'm doing. And if you want to output this into the screen, you need to tell this again, output to the screen. The cout is the set instruction, and we're going to actually do it the value of num. I'm reading exactly what's on part F, that last line, num1. Now you notice that this is a string that I've put this under, and I'm going to use this extractor. This variable that I've read in is num1, this variable, which is this variable, I need to declare it, and coming down to this, what's being stored in as an int. So I'm just going to copy that, paste that num1 right here. Okay. So with that, I need to actually tell it to concatenate with it. This is continuing with part F with it. Put a little space after it, and the value of num2 is equal to num what this num2, which is this num2. So the user is going to type in two integers separated by a space. That's the key thing. So this is num2, where I want to put this right here with it, right? And I need to tell it to put a period after where it's at, and maybe perhaps let the user know I need an end line right there to let the user move the cursor down with it. So this is part F. It tells you to actually do this, to input this thing in. Now, in this, right now, this is what we're looking at, is part F. Next part is part G. It says, write a C++ statement that multiply the value of num1 by 2 and add the value of num2 to it. Then stores it into new num. Then write the C++ statement that outputs the new num with this thing. So let's talk about that formula that we looked at. Let's talk about that formula that we just looked at. If you look at this formula, it basically says it wants you to, it takes me a couple times to read this thing. So write a C++ statement that multiply the value of num1. Multiply the value num1 by 2. So what's the value of num1? I don't know. Whatever's in the num1 is multiplied by 2, right? So I'm going to take 2 multiplied by num1. Okay? Then it says it wants you to add the num2 to it. So I need to add num2 to it. So let me just clarify this. The reason why I wrote this the way how it is if you recall that in programming in chapter 2 there is an order of precedence of multiplication needs to happen first, then you add it to addition comes into it. If you recall when we were in secondary school, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please is what? Parentheses. Excuse is for exponential. My is multiplication. Dear is division. Aunt is addition. So on and so on. Sally is subtraction. So all of this needs to equal to what? New num. Remember that? So this is this new num right here, which is this. Alright, so that's the new num. So that stores it into that memory with it. Now, let me just comment out here because we have is what? Part E in this thing. So part E, now, A, B, C, D, E, alright, and now we need to write the C++ statement output the new num with this thing. So, again, output means require you to use the cout, extractor, the value with the string, I'll say a string whatever, of new num equal, and that new num with this is this memory right here that's being stored. Now this is very important that you see how the new num has actually been written in this thing. Now let me explain. Remember, this right side equals the left side. That's how you use the operator equal. The right side equals the left side. I cannot I cannot do this. Cannot do this equals new num, because this means that new num now equals this whole thing. Okay, so be careful how the equal sign works in this thing. All right. Excuse me. So you got part E. This is part E that I just talked to you about. Coming down here, this is part A, B, C, D, E, F. This is the part. No, hang on. A, B. No, that's not F. This is G. My apology. I don't know my alphabet yet. This is part G. Now we need to look at part H. Okay. So in part H, if you look at part H, it says write a C++ statement that updates the new num by adding the value of the name constant secret. So remember that constant we declared out there in secret, then write the C++ message that outputs the new num with an appropriate message in this thing. So again, so what's in the new num now? Here's the new num. I'm going to just take that, paste that, plus here's my secret up here. This is my secret number. My constant up there, I'm going to add that right here. Semicolon, all of that needs to equal what? My left-hand side is what? My new num, right? So I'm going to take this. This is what my new num looks like right here. Okay? Now, and then I'm going to take the same line that I just have here, the value of the new num. I'm just going to alter that a little bit. Tighten up the code a little bit with this thing. So the new num with this thing. Okay, so the value, instead of saying the value right now, just add in the new value of new num, all right, with the secret number, all right. That should tell me what that is. Okay, all right. So that is that part with this. Let's come down and let's look at part I. Part I says write a C++ statement that prompts the user to enter a person's last name and store it into the last name into the variable name with this thing. Now that deals with what? Here it is. Here's name right here. Here's that variable that we declare it as a string, and this is the library file that we include into up here with it. So that's what we have is our string coming into this thing. Now, so I need to prompt the user. To store things in name right now. So this is part I. I'm going to do cout enter last name. Okay. Now cin read in name and cout and the end line. Okay. So what have I just done? I just stored, prompt the user for their last name, whatever they type in, it's going to be stored as in name, as in this variable, which should be this variable, which should be used by the string data type. This allows me to actually use the string data type in my preprocessor with this. Now, if you come down here, if you look at it, so all that's part I. Okay, I gotta watch the time here.